So let's do this. Let's talk about walk away.
Okay.
Because you sat down and I said the short question. Short question. So when you first got here, I was like, normally what we like to do is we like to grab like the relevant news stories that might matter to you. So we just had the DNC. It's kind of perfect you're here. We kind of had like an un-DNC week. We had Carrie Smith. She's liberals for Trump. We had Jack Murphy, Democrat to deplorable. And now you're here. Mm-hmm. And then you were like, you have to walk away.
You do.
You have to walk away from but you said from the left. And I was like, what I said was I walked away from the Democrats, I think officially like April or something, when I was like, I am done donating to these people. I donated to a few of these Democrats because I thought we needed to try and salvage, find some people who are challenging the Democratic establishment to make sure the party doesn't fall into, the hands of the Dark Lord or whatever.
Right.
But then what happened? So, look, I think Tulsi is great and I donated to her and I was straight up like, Tulsi is the right choice because she's willing to bridge the gap with Trump supporters, talk to Tucker Carlson. She's very anti-war. I love it. And then she supported impeachment. Although I think she ultimately abstained or whatever. She got snubbed from the DNC. Go figure. They're not. Right. You can see what they do to Tulsi and how they treated her, and that they're not. I don't think they can be salvaged at this point, at least. And then Yang went right on board with all this stuff too. And I just felt like the people that I thought I was going to support, who are going to try and push back on the absurdity, joined right in the moment they had the opportunity. And I should have learned my lesson with Bernie Sanders. Bernie doesn't say millionaires anymore.
No.
Bernie Sanders used to say, the millionaires and the billionaires in this country. And then guess what happened?
What?
He became a millionaire.
Oh, right.
And then all of a sudden, he just started saying,
the
billionaires.
Like me. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, dude, you can be a millionaire and still call out extreme wealth and influence in politics. No, he got right on board. He's supporting Hillary. He supported her. He supported Biden. And I was like, what is this?
Right.
He was supposed to be the honest guy, and I believed in him. And then I remember this moment on the debate stage when Bernie said, if you're white, you don't know what it's like to be poor. And that for me, I was like, excuse me, dude? I was like, I'm from the South Side. I thought this guy cared about working class people.
Right.
South Side of Chicago. I thought he cared about working class people. I thought he was fighting for, help, like unions and these traditional values that the Democrats are supposed to support. And then he had the nerve to get up there and say white people don't know what it's like to be poor or live in a ghetto. Someone I knew when I was a teenager died of a heroin overdose. Mm-hmm. Other people have been shot and killed. And guess what? They were white. They certainly knew what it was like to live in a ghetto. And I was extremely angry Bernie Sanders said that. Then when he lost, he went and endorsed Hillary. And I was like, get out of here. It's exactly the problem. Fool me once, fool me twice, fool me thrice. It's just going to keep happening. So I didn't vote for anybody. But now I'm angry.
Yeah.
For a lot of the reasons you probably said. Look, I worked for this media company. They told me to lie. They didn't explicitly say, hey, Tim, go lie. They said, side with the audience. I asked, if that means that there's a news story that would be offensive to our audience, we don't report it. And they said, yes, that's fair. So what does that mean? That means if you're watching a fight between Antifa and, say, the Proud Boys, I better not let the audience know that the Proud Boys were only defending themselves,
right,
because that would offend the audience.
Yes.
So then what do we report? Antifa was viciously attacked by a Proud Boy.
Right.
That's how everything plays out. And I said no to it. They put me in golden handcuffs. The money was great, but I couldn't do anything. Contract ended. I was out. I started my own thing. I actually went to a bunch of these other companies. After I left, it was called Fusion. It was ABC News and Univision joint venture. I went to a bunch of the New York companies. They all knew me. They all loved me. And I saw what was going on in those offices. I saw these people who were lying on purpose for money, that were playing dirty games. And I said, appreciate the offer. And I left.
Aren't a lot of them also there for kind of altruistic reasons and have their hands tied themselves, that they're kind of taking orders from the top about what they're supposed to, what the narrative is or what they're supposed to be saying? They don't want to actually be doing it? No, not at all?
The way it works is that they would never hire you because they know what you say.
Yeah.
They hire people who already talk the way they want.
Right.
It's just that simple. A lot of people seem to think that these journalists are being forced to do it. No. The journalists that don't want to do it quit or get fired. And then they hire people. They'll ask them in the interview, how do you feel about Trump? Oh, I can't stand him. Well, this is a tech reporting.
You're hired.
You're hired.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's how it rolls.
Wow.
So here's the question I had. You said walk away from the left, though. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can rag on Democrats all day and night, but
sure,
I don't see my political opinions changing for the most part. I will say, with all of the chaos and destruction in a lot of these cities, at this point, even though my policy ideas and opinions, some of them are pretty, deep-seated because I've thought really hard about certain issues, freedom, pro-choice, taxes, and things like that. But I'm willing to give the Republicans a go of it in big cities because the Democrats have completely failed.
Yes.
They're corrupt beyond recognition at this point.
Right.
I mean, you look at the big cities and I mean, there's Bill de Blasio giving his wife a $2 million staff. Meanwhile, he's going to lay off EMTs. It's like, I get it, man. A $2 million a year staff isn't going to pay for every single EMT, but you can hire a lot of them. Nope. My wife needs these people to film her bake cookies. Then you look at Garcetti in LA. What's he doing? He says, we're going to shut your power off if you have a peaceful assembly.
Right.
That's unconstitutional and a violation of human rights.
Not just a peaceful assembly if you have too many guests over to your house.
Well, that's what it is, a peaceable assembly. It's the First Amendment.
Yeah.
The Constitution doesn't say what you can assemble for. It says you can assemble, period.
Yeah, but we're talking about indoor. We're not even talking about in a public place or a public venue. I mean, it's like I'm not allowed to get coronavirus if I want to at somebody else's house. Like, that's not my choice anymore.
Well, look, I can understand wanting to prevent COVID, for sure. And it seems like we had a really big problem earlier this year, and it was kind of scary. These Fraser trucks in New York City, a lot of bodies being pulled out. Italy brought in the military to bring bodies out. It seems like we did get hit by something, and it seems like it's mostly gone, mostly herd immunity. To be fair, I understand we're locked down, and the reason we may still be seeing very little uptick is because we are locked down. But to me, we were told 15 days to slow the spread, not stop COVID.
Correct.
Which means these cities, these states, you look at South Dakota, they're having a great time. Barbecue, and they threw a parade for their governor. Their GDP is improving. Kristi Noem rejected the stimulus that Trump, the executive order stimulus, because she's like, we don't need it. Our people are back at work. Now, I get it. It's not, as population dense as, say, New York. But New Jersey's arresting people.
Right.
Still.
Yes.
This is insanely corrupt. Insanely corrupt.
Well, and there's no acknowledgement either that New York, New Jersey, I mean, the vast majority of the people who died in nursing homes.
I think it's like 40 something.
42%.
Yeah. The plurality, I suppose. So what do you mean when you tell me to walk away from the left, though?
Well, you kind of just started to transition into, I guess what I would have said is that, a lot of people have a lot of opinions about what I do. And some of the things that people say to me is, you've got to distinguish the difference between a liberal and a leftist. It's not the same thing, people say to me. That's true. Okay, maybe. Yeah, okay. Actually, I can get on board with maybe that's not true. However, I was just having this conversation, I think, last night with somebody else. I make the analogy of Black Lives Matter, okay, which is pretty apt these days. So there are Black Lives Matter protesters that are peaceful, for sure. There are a lot of Black Lives Matter rioters and people who are out committing acts of violence, vandalism, have murdered people. And somehow I'm expected to distinguish the difference between the two. Or I'm expected to take someone at their word when they say, well, yeah, some of the people are doing that, but I'm one of the good ones. Or that, we somehow have to just acknowledge that it's a big movement. Some of it's bad, some of it's good. Let's ignore the bad and let's just focus on the good. It doesn't work that way. For me, it doesn't work that way whatsoever. And I apply the same exact logic to the left in general. I don't want to hear about how you're one of the good liberals and that you're not like the other people from the same party or the same sort of ideology that you consider yourself to be a part of. Because once you have people in your political movement who are beyond just race baiting, beyond telling lies, beyond creating narratives in the media that are so divisive and destructive, but are actually out looting, stealing, shooting, burning things to the ground, destroying cities, killing people, you name it. I'm not going to sit here and play this game with you. But I'm a good liberal. I'm not a leftist. Get the hell out of there, dude. Cut and run.
Hold on.
Cut and run.
Liberal means something, and it's been really corrupted by everybody over a certain period of time.
Black Lives Matter means something.
It absolutely does. So if someone was a white nationalist and they called themselves a conservative, I could apply similar logic. Well, I'm not going to listen to you as you try and tell me you're one of the conservatives who's not on board with that, fringe ideology. So it doesn't work that way. You know what I mean?
Well, unfortunately, though, with the example that you named, we're talking about like 65 million voters and like a few thousand that are actually white supremacists or white nationalists or whatever. And I don't believe that the discrepancy is that great in the Black Lives Matter movement or liberals in general.
I think you're right. I do. I think you're right, especially with that argument. There's substantially less white nationalists and supremacists relative to the bulk of the conservative voting bloc in this country.
Right.
So I hear your argument. I don't want to give up what liberalism literally is.
But you don't have to. You don't have to. That's the thing. My values haven't changed whatsoever, with the exception of a few policy issues, which might be a really big deal to some people. Things like the border. I've changed my opinion completely about a border wall, border security, or illegal immigration in general. Yeah. I would have been for it before, and now I'm not.
But even Bernie was talking about building border barriers and dealing with illegal immigration back 10, 12 years ago.
Right.
Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they all were.
Right.
And Hillary Clinton said we need a border barrier.
Right.
So for me, when Trump came out with the wall, I was like, and it's just what the Democrats, and then also the Democrats opposed it.
Right. I think a wall's a little stronger than a barrier, and that's where they were just like, well, it was fine when it was, a barbed wire fence that they could crawl over.
And but then when Trump actually builds bollard fencing, they complain. Well, he was supposed to build a wall. What do you care for? That's the funny thing about the wall.
Yeah.
Very early on, Trump was prototyping out these big concrete walls, and then ultimately ICE was like, well, we need to be able to see through it, and he was like, oh. So we should do fencing. Yeah, but we'll do multiple layers and we'll reinforce these select areas. And he did the right thing. They yelled at the man because he wanted to build a wall. He ultimately said, okay, we won't do a wall. We'll do select bollard fencing, triple layers and key areas to reduce smuggling and trafficking. And now they're laughing, saying, haha, he never built the wall.
Right.
Well, you didn't want him to.
Right.
What are you mad about?
Yes.
They just want to, it's funny because they always say that conservatives just want to own the libs. But of course the libs just want to own the cons. It's the same game.
But you don't have to give up your values. And I mean, maybe there's a few examples you could name that do fall in opposition to republicanism or conservatism.
So this country, if you look at the actual philosophy of liberalism, it's republicanism and it's liberalism together. They're complementary. Republicanism in the sense that we have elected leaders from various areas with different jurisdictions. We are a constitutional republic. We use a democratic election process for our representatives, and the country is founded upon liberal ideals. Not liberal the way it's been construed today, though. I'm talking about classical liberalism.
Sure.
So for me, I guess it's fair to say the way we describe liberals in this country has been wrong for a really long time. What the Democrats used to be, at least for a brief period, was social liberals. You have social liberals and classical liberals. Social liberal describes me very, very well. A center left. I believe in real social justice, which is like the Civil Rights Act. The left is trying to get rid of it. So it seems like I've noticed one thing. A lot of conservatives, even Trump will say the liberals. And I'm like, it's not like the people who believe in liberalism, like even social liberalism, not classical liberalism, mostly agree with the conservatives. It's the leftists and the people who are lying and stealing that name. Or look, Antifa spray painted on the wall, liberals get the bullet too. Many of these people hate liberals. The progressives, they don't like liberals either. They make fun of liberals every day because center left is not far left enough for them. So what's really fascinating to me is conservatives will talk about liberals and, slam liberals and all that stuff. And then on these Antifa forums, I love it when they make fun of me because they call me a liberal. They know I'm not a conservative. But these weirdo resistance types who are trying to push for Biden and the Democratic Party hate the fact that I am, and so they call me conservative. It's just not true. Antifa on the far left, they know I am, and they hate me for it. So I don't want to give up, the real...
I feel like you're having an identity crisis right here before our eyes. I feel like it's all happening. Because I think that I don't think that they hate that you're a liberal and they're not left enough for them. I think that they hate that you are a conservative.
So
I'm not
now. I have a question for you, Brandon.
One second, but are you saying that conservatism has changed?
No, well, conservatism has become much more socially liberal. I think that the biggest issue that I would not be a conservative today if people were still homophobic or if there was a lot of bigotry. And there are certain denials on the right that bother me sometimes. I have people come up to me and they say, we were never homophobic. I'm like, give me a break. Come on. But the thing is, it's just not like that anymore. There are not that many people who care. The thing that they're not going to budge on, well, and that's not even true either. I was going to say abortion. There are many conservatives now who will say, look, up until 3 months, I can live with it. But the Democrats, life begins at kindergarten. At this point, they're, they're like, right? You can abort up until, right before preschool registration. And it's gone way, way, way too far. So this is common sense. Yeah.
Here's the problem. I have a lot of, generic wedge issue values that are aligned with social liberalism. I do think there's such thing as systemic racism. I think that the left will not tell you the truth. So we can't actually have real conversations about problems in this country and ways to solve them because they want socialism and they're manipulating our emotions around racism and identity to get what they want.
Sure.
So I actually do like social programs. I am pro-choice. There's a lot of things where I'm like, this is, always where I've been. And I've thought really, really hard about these things. I didn't just make it up one day. The issue I take is if I just say, you know what, conservatives have become more encompassing and, like the things you said about social liberalism and these are socially liberal in certain ways. Mm-hmm. What happens then is if someone like me just starts saying that, like a person like me is conservative, then the wheel is turning in favor of the left. That means they are taking the reins and turning their fringe cultist ideology into mainstream when people like me give up where we've always been, because I am not a conservative. I take all these tests. I am I am left libertarian, pretty decently left libertarian. I do have strong moral foundations across the board. So it's a very center left. I took the Hidden Tribes test. That one says I'm a traditional liberal, and another test says I'm an left-leaning independent. If I just say, okay, fine, you know what, I give up, I will be on that side, then the wheel rotates and the far left moves closer to mainstream center. And I refuse to let them take the middle of the Overton window.
See that? Okay, that's very, very fascinating to me. So it sounds to me like for you, the battle, if we draw a line down the center, right? Here's everybody on the center and the right. You feel like the battle is here. Whereas I feel, first of all, I feel like I was pushed over here against my, against my own volition.
Right.
But regardless, now that I am here, to me, the battle is here versus here. It doesn't, and maybe there is a microcosm over here, but I think there's a larger battle. I mean, we're talking about our country and our culture and our, it's heady, big stuff. And this is again why I think I didn't necessarily become a Republican because I think Republicans are so awesome and like this is the party I can't live without. I became a Republican as a defense, I think, against how far fringe the left is going. I think that if there's any hope of righting the ship, excuse the pun, we have to vote red.
I agree.
We have to.
That I agree on.
Yeah. The things that bother me about Republicans, it's more administrative and organizational than it is policy necessarily. I've seen with my own. Here's an example. In not even 2.5 years, I created a movement, and there's literally hundreds of thousands of people who have joined this movement. They've made testimonials, they've written stories, they've made videos. We have them. There's proof. I have never received a phone call from anyone in the RNC like, love what you're doing. How can we connect on this? Like nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I don't exist, and
there's no organizational power.
Right. Now the left would be like, that's because they hate you because you're gay. And it's like, no. It has nothing to do with that. I think that they're completely out of touch with what's going on the ground because it's not just me.
That I agree with.
There is a number of incredible activists who are doing amazing work. I promise you none of them will be featured on the RNC convention this coming week. I probably won't either. And not that it's about the exterior, because Republicans don't really care about the exterior, and I don't care about the exterior. But we have amazing Black, brown, LGBT people who are doing incredible work. Like just since Trump got elected, because Trump really created this earthquake that shook a lot of people awake, myself included. But it's like the Republican Party, they're not getting the gift that's being given to them right now of all of this. All of these amazing activists and all of this, excuse the term, diversity that's kind of coming their way. I think that they just kind of have this idea that, oh, well, let's just keep, playing by the same playbook and hope for a different result.
The left that's been taking over the Democratic Party are the organizers and the activists.
Yeah.
They know exactly what to do. They have strategies. They have plans. They have media manipulation strategies. I know many of these people from, back during Occupy Wall Street. Many of them aren't as active, but I know people who explained their propaganda, their strategies. There's one really obvious strategy. They will throw a rock at a cop, and then when the cop swings back, they press record. What do they publish? The cops swinging at people.
Of course.
That's just very, very obvious stuff. It works.
Yes.
Republicans don't know this game. And a lot of the people who came out for Trump who've never been involved in politics before don't know any of politicking and how these dirty games are played. So what ends up happening, and we've definitely talked about this on the show before, you've got these accounts run by leftists, and they direct people to take action. So let's say, you are seen in this video on an airplane not wearing a mask. All of a sudden, these high-profile accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers send a message out to everybody, send this email to American Airlines. AA gets inundated with 50,000 emails saying, ban this man from the flight.
Right.
And then they do. Conservatives don't have those things.
Right.
Because a combination of not being hardcore activists, many new Trump supporters not being in the political world, and they're also individualists. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify, and we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.